The number one thing for all the officials on my crew is they know if they have a foul, if they have a penalty, they just give me the signal. They do not come into my camera angle.
FaceTime, baby.
You know, just there's only needs to be one person on the camera, and that is definitely me.
That was Jerry McGinn, and this is On the Bench with Mike Hall. That's me. I know, Jerry McGinn is a name you may not know, but he's a face and a voice you sure do if you're a Big Ten football fan. He's one of the top football officials in the country. He's actually the referee, of which there's only one on a crew, something I learned firsthand from him as his teammate from when I was on his crew for a day. See, back in 2015 for the Penn State spring football game, BTN had me mic'd up with a camera on me, and I was an official for a day. It was Jerry's crew that I was on. I was a side judge for the first half and a head linesman the second half. I learned so much about officiating from that experience. First off, they were all such good guys, hardworking guys. But second off, I found out firsthand how hard it is what they do. It is super easy for a fan to rip on an official. I've done it in my life plenty of times. We see something we don't like and we reflexively blame them. Sadly, many people often assume officials are lazy and dumb and blind and don't know what they're doing, but I mean, that's just not the case. They do exhaustive work every single week in preparation for a game. We'll dive into that shortly, but I wanted to start with Jerry by reminding him of that 2015 spring day when I wore the black and white stripes. We were in the final minute of the game, and I told the guy I was shadowing I hadn't thrown a flag all day yet. The next play, he said, "Throw it, 5 men in the backfield." So I did. Blew my whistle, stopped the game, and all the other officials gathered to me to hear what the call was. I asked Jerry if he remembered that huddle and what he said to me.
No, I really don't. No.
He said, "What are you doing here?"
Okay, yes.
And I said, 5 men in the backfield. You remember what you said to me then?
I was probably trying to be nice, and I probably just said, go back to your position, get out of here.
You said, "You don't even know what that is." You're like, "What number? Who was it?"
Yeah, I think Frank's the individual that you were shadowing is Frank Sterator.
Sterator.
Yeah. I think he set you up. Yeah, because the number one thing for all the officials on my crew is they know if they have a foul, if they have a penalty, they just give me the signal. They do not come into my camera angle.
FaceTime, baby.
Just there's only needs to be one person on the camera, and that is definitely me.
Do you remember? The other thing I remember from that was, who was the least happy person in State College that day once I threw that flag?
James Franklin.
Yep.
That's a shock. That's a shocker.
It was a running clock at the end of the game, and he was trying to get plays in, but because of me, I ended the game.
You ended the game. You were a game ender.
Yes.
Yeah. You can put that on your resume.
That was such a legitimately eye-opening experience to do. And I wish more media people got to do it. It's sort of like what the NCAA tournament has done with the selection committee. Like, they let people in and you can see how it's not a corrupt process and how hard it is to do. Because there's so many things. One of the things that stood out to me, Jerry, was every official has 5 or 6 or 7 things they have to look for every single play.
There is a checklist that we must go through, and we have to do it in sequence, or else it throws everything off. Because the clocks have to be correct, the down markers have to be correct, the length of where the down marker is in relation to the first down has to be correct, the number of players. So you went through that routine, but Mike, honestly, if I had to do that every spring, every week, I don't think the Big Ten could afford me. But no, you were great. You were a pleasure to work with. The amazing thing was that you actually attempted to do the weekly quiz.
I did.
that you attempted. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, we would have given you a passing grade, but you at least attempted. So that was impressive. That was
one. So there's so many things that, like, I think an average fan wouldn't understand now still. And one of them is, explain to everyone how often you get quizzed.
Well, with the pandemic, it has definitely it's moved up. Normally in the springtime, we have 2 or 3 quizzes that we must take. Right before the summer, there's a national quiz that we take. It's a 100-question test, and that test is normally, it's a group effort. Officials get together beforehand. The crews will get together, review the questions and the answers, and so forth. There's a lot of debate going on as far as the answers, because these questions are very subjective. There's a but in there, and then all of a sudden, it can mean something totally different. So there's a lot of discussions with that. When we leading up to our clinic, which is usually like mid-June, we have a few online quizzes that we must take, and then the clinic test. That's really the mark in the sand, so to speak, as far as where you stand with the rules. As far as with the conference, and we've been doing. It's a 25 question test. You have 30 minutes to take it, and you cannot go back to a previous question. So you have to just stay on that question, answer it, and then move forward. If you don't get all 25 done in 30 minutes, you're losing points. And that's posted, and that's kind of the benchmark as far as as far as the office is concerned, as far as your rules. But then we have an online quiz every week, and it goes from basically like I said, May, June until the end of the season. So actually, after I get off of this, I will complete my weekly quiz. So.
See, I remember when I was with you, I asked you what was the biggest misperception people have about officials, and you were like, people think we just show up Saturday morning, and they don't understand how much work goes into it. Not just, during the season, it's intense, but like you said, in the spring, in the summer, walk through for everybody. So let's say you got a noon game on a Saturday. How much work are you doing from Saturday evening all the way up until the next Saturday?
Okay. Well, normally after the game Saturday, we're just really decompressing, because there's a lot that goes into the game. We know that we're on camera. Basically, we feel it's 24/7 that we have to be on guard during those weekends. Even when we're traveling, when we're flying, there's, people know, they kind of know who we are, because a lot of the fans are taking the same flights that we are.
Right, so and some referees like their camera time. So
no, not in the airport. Not in the airport. I try to fly under the radar. You'll see nothing. I won't have anything showing Big Ten. I just try to locate in the airport, get in and get out, because there have been times when some upset fans have approached us, and it hasn't been pleasant. So, we just try to avoid all those confrontations. The Sunday morning, we start, right away, inputting all our fouls from the game, all our non-fouls. If we saw something that it was on the bubble and we passed on, we have to write that up. Then we're breaking down the film. We have conversations with the office on Sunday as far as, any issues during the game with the coaches, with the players, the officials themselves, or phone conversations with themselves. And then we start breaking the film down. And, Monday, we're fully into breaking it down. I'm probably spent, let's just say a 3-hour game. It's taken me anywhere from, 5 to 6 hours to break it down, because we have the different camera angles that we're looking at. On Tuesday, we have a crew meeting. Now it's a Zoom meeting, reviewing the game. And there's 4 officials per week who are responsible per quarter to break it down and present it to the crew as far as their findings, the good, the bad, and the ugly that we will discuss. And then once that is completed, then we basically take that game and, we put it in the can, it's done, and we move on to next week. So Wednesday, we'll start scouting the home team. Tuesday, Then Thursday, we're scouting the visitors, and we're looking at their tendencies, what they do on third down, fourth down, any unusual plays, any of their superstars, how they're working. We're looking at their rookies, if they had to go against, an All-American, how they're going to react, the special teams. So then on Friday, we'll have our pregame. But now what we've done is we've actually moved the pregame up to Thursday night Zoom. So we can do everything on Zoom. And that meeting usually lasts about 2 hours, talking about the, Saturday's game on what, again, their tendencies, their offense, their defense, their special teams, any coaches that have, that have a tendency to come outside of the box. Then on Friday, we have to be into the town Friday night by 5:00. And from there, since we've already had the pregame, then we'll just have we'll have a pregame dinner. And then Saturday morning for a noon kickoff, we normally leave the hotel by 9:00. We're at the stadium and we're inspecting the field. We're inspecting the equipment. Game balls have to come in. And then an hour and a half prior to kickoff, an hour and a half, hour and 45 before kickoff, I have to visit with the production truck to review the timeline. And then from there, I immediately go visit with each coach, head coach, and talk about, again, the timeline, any unusual plays that they may have. And then we immediately go from there to the field. We're responsible for maintaining control in the field 90 minutes before kickoff. And usually the teams leave 20 minutes before kickoff. Then we go back in the locker room for our last prep. And then it's out in the field roughly 10 minutes prior to kickoff.
It's a ton of work. To summarize what you just said, that's 7 days. You will spend hours on this 7 days a week. Yes. If I remember, you mentioned that sometimes on Wednesdays, there'll be study groups with the crew.
Yes.
And if you have a flight on a Saturday, you might watch the game you just did to study it again. I mean, this is anything but you're only putting in 3 hours a week.
Yeah, honestly, Mike, it used to be an avocation, but it really has turned into a job. I myself personally, I'll do anywhere from 20 to 25 hours just strictly on film work, looking at the previous game, looking at the games coming up. And you're right, we do have what we refer to as regional meetings. And in the regional meetings, I'm out of the Philadelphia area, so there'll be young officials, Division 2, 3, 1 AA. And we'll get them together to do a rules meeting, and we'll do, kind of teachable moment plays that have come up in our games. They will present some of their plays as far as what happened, and they'll ask us, how to handle the, different situations. So it's an ongoing process. There used to be a time when, we would just put everything away after bowl season and open the books up in June, but that world is gone. I actually force myself after the bowl season, which is, usually, in early January, I force myself to put everything away for 2 weeks. I have a commitment to myself to put it away for 2 weeks. And then I start back again, opening up, looking at the rules, going through definitions, and starting the process all over again.
Man, well, that's probably smart. Although I do want to circle back. It's shocking based on your accent. You say you're based in the Philadelphia area.
Yes. Born and raised. I was only transferred once. Company transferred me out to Pittsburgh to the left side of the state. Where Philly is definitely on the right side.
Nicely put. So another thing that I thought was interesting from my time with you was I referred to something as a referee, and very kindly and very respectfully, you were like, actually, Michael, there's only one referee. The rest are the officials. And it reminds me of if someone sees me and they're like, oh yeah, you're a television analyst. And I'll be like, well, no, I'm a studio host, or I'm a play-by-play. It's the former players or the coaches who are the analysts. Is there anything else you can think of that official versus referee designation that the average fan often screws up?
You're dead on as far as most of them just refer to us, as an official or, the enemy. But yeah, there's actually 10 officials now for every game, and we started, from our, basically, you joining us. It kind of the light came on that when we're doing our camps with the teams, that we go through each position and the responsibility as far as what they do, their keys, because a lot of the players, first of all, they didn't even realize that there were 8 officials on the field, and the fact that every official has a certain key that they're looking at prior to every snap, every kickoff, and the players, they now all of a sudden they're starting to realize that someone is watching them every play, so they're, as far as them thinking that they can get away with a possible hold or a possible push from a defensive player's perspective, they're being watched, maybe just by one official or maybe by 2 if they fall into a certain zone. And then we have the 2 officials up in the booth for replay. One is the main replay official, and the other one is the communicator.
Yeah.
So
I remember that was the phrase you said. It was find your key. Everybody at the beginning of a play has to find their key, which basically means your main thing you're looking at, your first thing you're looking at.
Yes. So, for example, the position that you were in, we kind of kid around that the deep officials, like the deep officials on the wing, they have one person that they have to watch. And when you come inside to the referee, the center judge, and the umpire, we're all looking at 2 to 3 main keys, but it's really 6 to 8 individuals that we're looking at. And then if it's a tight offense, it can be up to 12 players in our zone that we're looking at. So then it does become very complicated. And the question that I'm asked quite a bit is my initial key. And at first, off of a normal scrimmage play, I'm looking at the backs to see if they false start, and then I transition immediately to the right tackle to see if the right tackle, if it's going to be a pass play or a run, and then look at what he's doing, and also the defensive player, because what we're seeing a lot from a defensive side now is the player will come up quickly with a shot to the head, and if it's not a shot, if the hand just goes up and then comes off right away, we'll pass on that as a foul. But if it's a shot, as some individuals are starting to do, it's kind of like a boxer hitting another boxer in the head, and the offensive lineman is definitely, his head is going to jar back, and with that, then we'll have a foul. So we'll have him and myself. I'll have that tackle and the defensive tackle in my view, along with the quarterback, to see if he's handing the ball off, if he's going to, throw the ball, where he is on the field, compared to the box, if he's outside the box, the tackle box, so he can throw the ball away legally. So there's a whole process that we do go through.
I'm going to ask you to take me on the field for the next few questions. How much bantering or bickering between players or coaches and the officials or anything actually happens in a college game?
The players, they've been schooled very well from their coaches to keep that down. We will talk to the players. We'll try to help them out. As far as an example would be, a receiver coming up to the line of scrimmage, and they may be wide out, far from the snapper, and it's tough for them to initially see if they're on the line of scrimmage or off the line of scrimmage. So our short wing officials, the line judge and the head linesman, will help them in that regard. Just tell them either you're on or you're off. There's situations where I'll walk up to an offensive player and tell him that he's really on the bubble as far as an offensive hold, and the smart ones will just turn to us and say, "Thank you. I'll make sure that doesn't happen again." Unfortunately, sometimes we do get into a discussion with the offensive players, and we try to tell them we're not here for a discussion. We're just trying to help you. You can take it or not, but please, if you continue in that venue, then it will be an offensive hold.
Yeah.
The coaches, sometimes they do get excitable, and it's very different, Michael, with football officials versus I would say some other, like basketball officials. Basketball officials, they seem to have a tendency to want to just hit the coach with a technical and just move on. We try and actually work with the coaches. If their level is at an 8, we try and bring them down to a 6, to a 5, to a 4, and we do that by a number of different techniques. One is to, if they're on the field, say during a timeout and they're just getting a little bit too loud, a little too boisterous, we'll just walk them back to the sideline. And they know that's an indication that, you know what, maybe I got to tune it down a little bit, because these guys, they're not going to change their call. They have a foul and it's staying down, but I have to, kind of bring myself down to, their level, or else it's going to be an unsportsmanlike conduct against them.
Yeah.
So
do you have the opportunity to like build relationships with a player or with a coach at all?
Not really. No. Yeah. The players, they're zeroed in on their job, on their position, on the game. And, we know they don't want to, develop a relationship. They see us there as, keep the game under control, and we just move forward. There's some coaches that I would say have a better personality than others. And they will try and engage with us, and they're extremely nice. And honestly, when we see them on our schedule, it's nice to do their games. And there's others that we know why they're there, and they're there to win, and they're not looking to be our friend, our buddy, and we totally respect that. So there's just different styles for everyone.
I wouldn't ask you to give me a current name. Is there a former Big Ten coach that you were like, it doesn't have to be negative either. Is there someone like, insert coach here was always very respectful, Ralph Friedgen, if he was, if the Big Ten had Maryland back then or something like that.
That was what, more engaging?
Yeah, that someone was like, they were always respectful. They always understood we were doing our best.
Well, unfortunately, about the individual just recently passed, Bobby Bowden.
Yeah.
He was a great man. It was always fun to work a Bobby Bowden game. He was just a true Southern gentleman, very nice, very accommodating. There was a situation during one game when we had an unsportsmanlike conduct against one of his players, and the fans were not happy about it. And there just happened to be a timeout, and he wanted to speak to me about it. And he just told me, he said, "Jerry, it may look like I'm yelling at you, and I'm going to point at you, but I'm not yelling at you. But I have to show the boosters and the alumni that I don't agree with you. So I will point at you, but the foul was correct. It was correct. And I will talk to that player, and he will not do it again. But I just have to let everyone know that I'm fighting for my players." I'm like, "Bobby, you're the best. You can do whatever you want. You can yell at me. We're great. We're great." Yeah. It was very sad to see him pass. Very sad to see him pass. Great man. Loved him.
That's unbelievable. I mean, that's something that, a sitcom writer would write.
Yeah. And I'm the other official that was with me, because we always have another official with us just to make sure that, it doesn't get too crazy. We had to walk away after that, and we knew the camera was on us, and we had to make sure that we just, we didn't laugh too visible.
Right.
So, but later on,
if you're smiling, you blow it.
Correct. Yes. So sometimes we just have to play the straight guy and just, act like we're being screamed at, and we just, it's all part of the atmosphere.
Okay. So you guys are human, right? Everyone, no one is 100% at their job, but every once in a while, there's a big call that is made, and to put it kindly, it's controversial. Okay, how do you react when you see a call and you're like, they missed that one?
If it happens in one of my games, the one thing I want to do is make sure that I get to that official and talk to that official and make sure that I get their head back into the game. Because there's been situations that the official will blow the call, and they're in the tank for the rest of the game, and then they're absolutely no good to us. So I need that official for the rest of the game. You know, we hate it when we make any mistake. Trust me, we are our own worst critic. There, um, we have graders every week that look at our game film and will grade our calls, grade our non-calls. But again, what I do as a you know, from a referee standpoint, from a crew chief perspective, is we will break down the film ourselves, and we find more things mechanic wise, you know, what we should be looking at than anyone could ever imagine. So we will beat up ourselves enough that, you know, if it happens during a game, I need that official. So we're all going to rally around that official to make sure we don't lose it.
What about if you're just at home as a fan watching the game and you see a missed call? Does your first thought go to sympathy because you relate to it, or are you sort of like, oh, he should have done X, Y, and Z instead of?
Yeah, I'm looking for a reason as to why they would make that call. You know, trying to, you know, get into their head, you know, on their side of it, you know, in their camp, like, okay, maybe they were screened, maybe they could have seen this, or maybe they, you know, they just didn't understand the interpretation of the rule. So it's, you know, unless you were at the spring game, unless someone's been in our shoes, to walk into a stadium with 100,000 plus screaming crazy fans, and then be under the microscope also from, you know, the play-by-play people, the 2 million plus fans at home, and then our friends and family, and then our other officials. You have to take a little backseat to that individual that can, you know, first of all, can do it, can put the uniform on and walk out into the field. There's been a number of times I've worked with younger officials, brought them to, say, the Penn State spring game where, you know, there's only 60,000 there. You know, that would be a good sized crowd for, you know, for an NFL game. And during a spring game, you know, it's everyone's happy. It's they're happy to see us there. No one's yelling my name, you know, saying different things, and it's a love fest. And I bring younger officials there, and as soon as they walk out of the tunnel and they see 60,000 people, you know, and that's a small spring game. Usually for a Penn State spring game, you're looking at 80 to 90. Their eyes get as big as saucers, and we have to, like, okay, let's go. It's just a game. We're gonna have fun.
What should an official do if he just doesn't know what the right call is? I mean, it could be like a pass interference, but you can't tell if it's offensive or defensive. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain things that are so close. What's an official supposed to do if it's right on the edge?
If it's right on the edge, then don't throw.
Okay.
We're looking for the big calls. We're not looking for, you know, the ones that are on the bubble. On the bubble, if we throw them, it would be 5-hour games. So we're just looking for the advantage, disadvantage. So if it's all of a sudden the defensive player puts the offensive receiver at a disadvantage, for example, he holds one of his arms down, and the receiver can only have one hand up to try and catch the ball. Well, then he's putting that receiver at a disadvantage, and that's defensive pass interference.
That's really interesting. There was a game last year. I'm not trying to call out any crew, but I think it was Purdue, Minnesota, and like Purdue scored the game tying go-ahead touchdown with a minute left, but they called offensive pass interference. And in the replay, it looked like there was, you know, maybe a gentle grazing of a finger. And I remember I was on the post-game show, and I was sort of like, listen, they didn't lose this game because of that call. They lost it because they gave up 45 points. They lost because they didn't convert any fourth downs. They lost because they were bad in the red zone. And I got destroyed by fans and media members for that. And part of me still thinks that right. But part of me also thinks if the job is, as you're saying, we're supposed to get the big ones and not something ticky-tack, then maybe there's a little bit of validity the other way too.
I think I do recall that play. It wasn't in my game, but we did review that as a staff, and it's a very tough call, extremely tough call. And I think you're right, Michael, in the fact that the game is not won or lost by one play or one flag that an official throws or doesn't throw. It's a series of plays that leading up to it. Um, the call itself, whether it was right or wrong, the official made it, and he had to stand by it. And there was, when an official makes a call like that, it's usually just not the one individual, because on a play like that, once a ball is released, the one official who's key is involved in that. Of course, he's going to be with those two players, but then there's usually one or two other officials that will go off their key because nothing's happening with their keys, and follow the ball to that point. And they'll be involved in, they could very well be involved in a discussion as to whether it was defense or offensive pass interference.
You ever turn the mic on and forget what the penalty was?
No, I'm pretty good with that. I may miss a number here or there, but there was a time where it was a horrible wedding game. It was, maybe mid-30s. It was raining. Everyone was soaked. It was in the third quarter. Both teams, they didn't want to be there. Maybe there was 10, 20,000 people in the stands, and we don't know why they were there. It was the end of the season. We had to dismiss a player from the game for an unsportsmanlike conduct. You could just tell that, and it was bad, just bad all around. And I was standing back there, and I was just kind of shaking my head, frozen to the bone, because it was so wet and cold, and I just, I thought, Michael, I was speaking to myself, and I said, Dilly, and we happened to have a supervisor in the booth for that game, and afterwards he came in to evaluate the game, and he got around to myself. He said, Jerry, at 3:27 in the third quarter, seemed like your mic was on, and you said Dilly. And I could look out the corner of my eye, and the rest of the crew, their head is in their hands, and they're just crying, laughing. And he said, was that some special code to the crew? And I was like, oh, yes, it was to be aware for a special play coming up. And and he goes, well, that's good. We're glad it's that. If it was otherwise, yeah. So it was. It's one of those times where, unfortunately, the mic was on. Didn't realize it.
Great. Yeah, it wasn't referencing a commercial. It was just a special.
Yeah. It was a special circumstance during the play, Mr. Supervisor.
What's the most impressive individual performance you've seen in a Big Ten game that you were officiating?
Wow. Yeah, that's a great question. There was definitely a few of them. Unfortunately, a lot of the times that I've seen personally, like live, everything happens in the backfield. After the game, my officials down deep, they'll tell me about these fantastic catches that happen, diving catches, and I'm not saying any of it because I'm focused and I'm staying on the quarterback till everything is cleared. But definitely, some of the running backs, Zeke Elliott, he was a beast. He was just pound the ball, and then break it loose. He was amazing. Then you have Barkley, who's with the Giants right now, and see how he could just jump over people out of nowhere. Defenders were coming up to tackle him, and they'd be standing on their feet, and he's jumping over their heads, and that is just amazing. Then the Boza brothers, from Ohio State. Those two were some pretty mean players. They could bring it.
You mentioned you've done a Penn State spring game. Have you done a whiteout game?
Yes.
What is to officiate that?
That is probably one of the best environments in the country, and I've been to a number of the big stadiums. That is honestly, that is off the charts as far as the fans going crazy. You can't hear yourself speak because you're dealing with whatever 115, 117,000, and they do not stop. We had a situation in a game, and there was a TV timeout, and the coach, the visiting coach, sent in one of my officials from his sideline, Mark Bennett, and he said, Jerry, the coach is complaining because the band is playing while they're at the line of scrimmage. I looked around. I was like, Mark, there's a band. You couldn't hear the band. Really, there was nothing. He was, he just did it to try and slow down the process, and he wanted us to kind of, make a statement about it. So yeah, it's the whiteouts are just, it's a special game. We all, the officials, we love having a whiteout game because it's going to be a fun game.
All right, before you go, we're going to do before you go. 4 questions not necessarily related to anything.
Oh, great. Okay.
Number 1, which Big Ten head coach would make the best official?
Best official? That's a good question. The best official. I would have to either say Fitz. I would say Fitz.
Because?
Yeah. Fitz has a very good, I believe, personality to calm down a situation and explain his point of view when the fireworks are going off. Yeah, I think Fitz.
Number 2, if you were asking me who's the best to do my job, I could give you a Costas, I could give you a Tirico, I could reel off the names that are easier because they're household names.
Okay.
Who's the best referee?
My wife. She tells me every week, Jerry, I could do that. I would have a better personality. I would have my demeanor on the camera announcing the penalties. I can do it. So yeah, my wife.
Good answer.
Or my daughter. My daughter, she feels that she's really good. She's a professor at Temple, so that would take her out of Temple games.
That's a sacrifice you got to make. Number 3, hidden talent away from officiating.
Goff.
What?
Goff. My hidden talent?
Goff. What's your handicap?
See, I'm sporting my team colors today.
Sure.
Okay. Union League of Philadelphia.
I had Joel Klatt on last year in the podcast, and his handicap was like better than 0. Where are you at?
No, I'm not there. I am not there. I'm single digits, but
okay.
I'm not a 0.
That's good.
I had my second hole in one this year.
You're kidding.
Yeah. Yep. I was lucky because it was an opening day and it was an open bar, so it didn't cost me a nickel.
That's perfect.
It was great.
Number 4, why do you love officiating?
I've been involved in the game, since my dad took me to play Pop Warner when I was, 6, 7 years old. Played all through high school, college, played a little semi-pro, and I coached high school at St. Joe Prep, who is now nationally ranked, a great program. So I've always been involved with football. This is a way to kind of give back, to help, but also keeps me close to the game. And I was before the Big Ten, I was previously in the Big East, and when that dissipated, I actually had a choice to make. Whether to go to the Big Ten, the ACC, or the Big 12, and what a couple of the tipping points for myself was number 1 was people like Bill Carolla, Jerry McGinn, who do a tremendous job of training officials and bringing them along, and the second was the stadiums. The atmosphere in the Big Ten is tremendous. It's just big time college football. I tell a lot of people on the East Coast in the Philadelphia area that, for the most part, Philadelphia area is a pro town, and they think it's it's the bomb to go to an Eagles game and hang out, and the crowd is going crazy. And I try to tell them, trust me, you do not know what a big time event is unless you go to a big, a big game like the whiteout, or you go to the Ohio State Michigan game, or the Michigan State Michigan game, or the backyard brawl. They're tremendous events. Every Saturday they're tremendous. They're great. So the atmosphere, is a big part of it, Mike.
Jerry McGinn, you are a good man. Thanks for giving me your time. Thanks for the answers, man. That was fun.
Hey, it was, Michael. Hey, good luck to you this year. Have fun. And always say a little prayer for the officials.
So to recap, Bobby Bowden was amazing. Fitz might make a great official one day if he wants, and dilly. My thanks to Jerry McGinn for joining me. Heads up, our pal Alex Rue always has great stuff on his Take 10 podcast. Be sure to check that out. That'll do it for this episode. For the Big Ten Network in Chicago, I'm Mike Hall. We'll see you next week.